Welcome back. The hashtag is NewsGang. I just want to take a look at a couple of tweets. Alex Owiti says, what's good for the goose is also good for the gander. Political culture in Kenya is like pigs playing in the mud. This bad culture...
You're quoting an MP?
...will... no. Huh?
In Kenya.
Okay. Okay.
Huh? No, he's a Kenyan. No.
Not an MP.
No. This is not a confession. This is Alex Owiti saying the bad culture will autocorrect itself. Engineer Lazaro Kanyambok says graft allegations in National Assembly is not news to Kenyans. Good number of them fighting various corruption cases in court. That's the truth. So there's, quite a bit that's being discussed in terms of Parliament, and I think we've talked about the role of Parliament. Perhaps one of the most empowered under this constitution to be able to, carry out its role of oversight, legislation and representation. I mean, I think even the PFM Act has given them sweeping powers, even when it comes to, taking a look at the budget and deciding that's a lot of those powers were removed from the executive. But there's questions as to whether they have fully exercised the powers that have been given to them and the authority and the mandate in this one, particularly the one on independence, Jay.
And that is where the problem is, Yvonne, because when you listen to our members of Parliament, not just in this instance, but even in previous issues, the question around, are they truly independent? Or our Parliament is a sort of a marionette that somebody controls from somewhere. And the beautiful moment we have now is that the confessions are coming. If you hear the chorus right now is, we have done everything that this president wanted. Why is he throwing us under the bus? And I think perhaps it's important to listen to some of them say it and confessing that they have failed the Kenyan people by their dalliance with the executive.
The events of 2024, these members of parliament were nearly killed in this house as they defended democracy and the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, after that, there were some allegations that money had changed hands. I think there was a figure of 2 million that time. And members, some of them even lost their property. Their houses were burnt. Others lost livestock and other things. So, Mr. Speaker, an allegation of bribery against a member, especially the figures that are being touted, even makes it, we feel endangered as you walk the street. People, first of all, imagine you are some 10 million or some 150 million, and others possibly think you are the worst enemy of the people. Mr. Speaker, we have been called MPs. We have been called all manner of names. So as I conclude, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge you, as the leader of this House, to do whatever it can, Mr. Speaker, to defend the integrity of this House.
And that is a confession coming from a member of Parliament, actually, who pushed for this debate to happen. And his confession tells us one thing that we've always feared, that the independence of this Parliament is questionable, that every action must have some semblance of a push from the executive. And you see, if you look at the role of Parliament today, it's supposed to do only 3 basic things. It's supposed to oversight the national government, it's supposed to represent the electorate, and legislate. The quality that comes out, and even other bites that you listen to members of Parliament on that Tuesday afternoon, they are all asking that one question, that we have done everything you wanted us to do. Why are you doing this to us now? So I think that moment needs not to be missed so that Kenyans pile pressure and MPs start doing the job that they were elected to do.
Yeah, and that job includes raising questions, right? Oversight.
Right.
Like Jaya said, have they properly conducted that role?
You see, the question that we must never forget is, why is it that even during hard economic times, it's only the political class that has money? Again, this week has been quite revealing in terms of the information of what goes on in the political circles. And you find some of them confessing that indeed, for them to appear at a Harambee over the weekend, whether it's on Sunday or Saturday, they receive the money they're going to give from somewhere. So you can imagine that Yvonne is the guest of honor this Sunday at a church somewhere. She calls me, gives me 50,000 shillings. I appear at that event on Sunday. She invites me to give my mchango, and I give my 50,000 shillings.
This is hypothetical.
Yeah, it's hypothetical.
Let's state that.
Yes.
In this era of confessions, this might be mistaken for one of those.
It's an example for your understanding. So
You may want to make him swear for that.
Where?
you can imagine this sort of deception that is going on in the country.
Yeah.
That politics pays, politicians have money, yet that money is coming from a certain basket.
Yeah.
And which basket is that? Because I don't think we budget for Harambes.
No.
In any case, if you remember July last year, we were told that all Harambes had been banned.
Yeah.
And there was going to be a law introduced through the Office of the Attorney General to limit and define how can you contribute, including charitable organizations or contributing for charity. We've not seen it, but Harambes are back. Where is that money coming from? At the same time, you must remember that in this country over the past few years, we've seen a lot of investigations. I want to start by what happened with COVID billionaires through that committee. Was it Public Accounts Committee?
Yeah. Yes.
And there were heated discussions. You remember the same was happening at the Senate. I remember the then chairperson of KEMSA, Kembi Gittura, appearing. And the senators were breathing fire. They wanted to understand why he was presiding over an organization that we were seeing that kind of business that was going on. But after the heat, after the anger, after the sound bites, what happened?
What happens? Yeah.
So a report was presented. Who implemented it? We don't see anything. But you see members of parliament continuing with the activities, winning elections, winning different elections. How does that happen? At the same time, during this current term, remember there's a time we were talking about Adani deal, or Adani deals. One of them went through, if you recall, the one that was in the energy sector.
Yeah.
Then another one was under discussion and serious consideration that they were going to expand the airport,
Yes.
the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, up until a documentary came out in the US.
Yeah.
And the president said that based on information from our partners, we
Raw
have
intelligence?
more
Sorry.
intelligence. Well,
That one wasn't raw, but this anyway.
yeah,
Sorry.
it was refined. And a decision was made that that deal was
Yeah.
being cancelled, not just the PPP that was under consideration for JKI, but also the one in the energy sector.
Right.
What were members of parliament doing at the time?
Yeah.
So yes, they were listening to the various officials, but what exactly were they asking for in terms of information? At the same time, Talanta Stadium is at an advanced stage of construction. I remember at the very start, the sports committee inviting the PS for sports then, Engineer Tum, to explain what is the cost of this stadium. And he couldn't answer. And he said, this is under the Kenya Defence Forces, so
Yes.
it's them that are supposed to answer. And of course, it was confusing that such a sports facility would be constructed under a budget of the Kenya Defence Forces, yet it's a sports facility. The members of parliament, did they pursue further to understand what is the cost? No. We hear now the cost when it's being announced by cabinet secretaries. I think it was actually CS Soipantuya who early in the year went to the House and explained how much it was going to cost. Why wouldn't parliament know? Yet they're the ones that budget.
Appropriate.
They're the ones who appropriate resources for different projects. The Social Health Authority, what Jamila had mentioned earlier on, the 104 billion shillings. This is a particular case that really parliament has failed Kenyans, because questions were raised. I remember several members of the health committee raising questions and opposing it. Then a retreat was called in Mombasa. Yeah. And after that, a clean bill of health was given towards that. That's why it's under.
Wasn't that the bill that they said they signed and didn't read it and didn't understand?
And then,
and then came and told us after the fact that, we didn't know this was in
there
it.
were the bills, and then there was the project.
Yes.
Yeah.
The technological system that is supposed to guide
Support
the
it.
management of the health sector in the country, costing 104 billion shillings. So, and Parliament is not bothered that that actually happened, and no concrete answers that were given. The other thing that we must ask, currently there's investigations into e-citizen transactions, about 9.6 billion shillings. We have seen members of parliament expressing this, quite angry and calling it, this is outright scam. So, and then what? So assuming that eventually the state officers or the public officers appear and give their evidence or the information they have, then what? What report are they going to write? What recommendations are they going to write? Or is this what now the president explains about raw intelligence as to what is happening? Hustler Fund, with so much money lost, they keep inviting these people. They ask questions, they answer, then they go. But public resources are being lost. Yeah. So really, if Parliament is to redeem itself, like Geoffrey Ondeto suggests. I think it's in clip number 6. Maybe we should listen to him.
And Mr. Speaker, we must first of all, and if you allow me, since I had a substantive motion, Mr. Speaker, add me only 2 minutes so that I finish. Mr. Speaker, it is important that you lead us to restore the dignity of this House. And there are certain things that we must stop doing. First of all, we have what I would call an unholy dalliance with the executive. That must.
Give him a minute. Give him.
Mr. Speaker, this House has to stop being a choir for the executive. Mr. Speaker, this week we have also seen a lot of attack on CDF and an attack on Constituency Roads Fund by the same executive whom we have helped here with very difficult decisions. And now, I think, Mr. Speaker, the chickens have come to roost. Mr. Speaker, I invite the members of the executive to read Matthew chapter 7, verses 3 to 5. We know corruption is a big issue in this country, but the Bible reminds us, while look at the speck of sawdust in your neighbor, where you yourself, you have a log inside your eye. Mr. Speaker, as I finish, it appears some people are falling, but we will not allow them to fall with the whole House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So specks and logs are not good things in the eye. I think it's time for members of parliament to be members of parliament.
Yeah, yeah. And
Specs.
He would know better.
well, yeah. But certainly
we're
not
being
in the
targeted.
eye, whichever way you look at it, you know.
Yes.
But this is a House generally, like we've said, you know. Perhaps houses of dishonor. There's a headline from People Daily back in 2018, House of Bribes. Some House team chairs alleged to have pocketed as little as 200,000, with the highest taking 120 million shillings to doctor reports. And this is something we've heard on. And I think, like we're saying, it's great to invite, you know, this conversation. And it's great that we're finally having this conversation on the table. Linus, I think we had once upon a time said that this should have been a campaign issue. It should have been something that was, you know, high up on the scale during the campaigns with certain promises. And of course, with all the candidates, and like you had alluded to earlier, it's to start to take a look at even the persons that are raising questions regarding, you know, corruption in the country.
And look, there's so much that needs to happen before Ondeto's aspirations of energizing that parliament are realized. There's a very sad realization that must be made here. The political class at all levels is currently operating on the lowest margins of mandate. It's the weakest mandate ever, I think, in the political history of this country. After what we've seen in the last few days, in especially parliamentary democracies, the next thing would have been calling for fresh elections, because you have institutions that are increasingly losing the faith of the people. And I pity the few members of parliament that actually realize that things are so bad. And I saw Ondeto saying they should stop being the choir of the executive. How will they not be the choir of the executive when the organist is the speaker? Or when the chief drummer, you know, the person with the, or can I call it a kayamba, because you know, it normally makes choir music quite interesting. Yeah. The leadership of parliament. Yeah. This is a very serious indictment of the leadership of parliament. Yeah. And when you look at the leadership of parliament, it's not just what you do or what you say, but actually how you carry yourself and how you carry that office. 2013 all the way this way, we've seen the cheapening of some of these offices, including the office of the Speaker, whether you're talking of Senate or National Assembly. You're very likely to meet the Speaker of either house in the nearest funeral service, in the nearest rally. You know, you line them up there speaking with the members of parliament. And, you know, they even try to follow order of precedence. You see, there's a reason we put them in those motorcades. Because you want to preserve the dignity of that office. But now you put in the motorcade one time, and then you retrieve them and put them in a funeral platform to talk the same language as politicians. I think we have a serious human resources problem right now in our political body politic, where people who do not understand the weight of the roles that they hold, they do not separate their individual weaknesses from the strength of the offices. You know, even if you are a weak politician in person, when the office comes, your responsibility is now to make sure your weaknesses don't interfere with the strength of that office. Speaker is number 3 in order of precedence in this country, meaning it's presidential material, meaning actually the president should benefit from the advice of a speaker. Yeah. Does that happen? They look so, how do I put it? They're so grateful to State House. Thank you, you made us. Yeah? And in the process, the institution of parliament suffers. That's how we got here. The decline has been mainly driven by HR. Now I want to go to the other decline, and I want us to listen to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Chair, Bishop Oginde.
Actually doing active investigations on various individuals, and as and when that kind of information is available, we'll share with members of the public, or you'll see the consequences in the various levels of the legal system.
This is supposed to be one of the most powerful institutions in this country, especially on the issue of corruption. It has the sole mandate of investigating and acting against corruption. It's backed by many laws. First, the Constitution, the Ethics and Integrity Act. You know, there's so many laws that support the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Now, because the president spoke and, and attacked the National Assembly, next day, I think, is when now they emerged. You know, as schoolboys, there used to be one moment that really excited us, and that's when we hear the games time bell. Yeah, that is the EACC now coming in telling us, oh, we have a number of individuals that you will soon see. This is the HR problem that we have in this country. What if the Office of the Auditor General was to behave the same way? What if the Office of the Controller of Budget was to behave the same way? The weaknesses of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, both as an institution and as a HR environment, as some of the reasons why now you have the president deciding to combine all of them to try and make them a task force. Yeah. It's a task force of weaklings who could not actually execute their role as given by the law. When I worked as a reporter in South Africa, there was the Directorate of Prosecutions that was running a unit called the Scorpions, in charge of corruption cases. It was feared because they brought consequences. This is the unit that investigated Jacob Zuma then as president, for state capture.
The Guptas.
Now, what stories do we hear about the EACC? You hear visits to governors that are somehow then muted after. So, how can we fight corruption that way? The day we have an EACC that understands that they are the adults in that space, and they're the only ones in charge of that, and they cannot be directed by the president, they cannot be directed by anybody else. Their relationship with the executive is that of them working with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions for prosecutions of cases that they'll investigate. is the day we'll start having some progress in the fight against corruption. Look, Kenya, we have a very good blueprint in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. It was written for the worst of our days because it was written with hindsight. You know, what we've went through and and that's why you see the likes of President Uhuru Kenyatta, President William Ruto, they always run into some roadblocks because all political bad manners were written against in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Now, when it gives us a beautiful provision for the EACC, ODPP, independent officers that you're talking about canon, when we don't allow those institutions, when those institutions don't exercise that authority, because it's not even a question of allowing them. If you are EACC chair, if you are EACC CEO, what more do you need? What other clearances that you are looking for before?
They'll tell you the budgets.
The budgets,
And this is what is affecting us. It's delaying our journey to institutionalism. And just like President Ruto and Parliament, we'll all come to a realization in this country that without effective institutions, we will continue becoming fantastic panelists on television shows.
Wow. So